My name is Bryan Druhan. I am the owner of Candid Brewing Company, and it's located in Antigonish, Nova Scotia, Canada. I am the owner, I am the head brewer, and I am the janitor, and I'm also the maintenance man.
Hi, welcome to another Beerfest Brewer Profiles. As you know, these are our little shorter look at individual breweries. It's kind of our way of getting a little snapshot of what's happening around the world with beer and with brewing, just through individual brewers. So we talk to the brewer, get to understand their brewery and understand the scene there. Short, usually about 20 minutes. I don't know what this one will turn out to be. But this week, as you've heard, I'm going to be talking to Bryan from Candid Brewing. He's in Nova Scotia, which is, if you're not too familiar with the map, it's pretty much stuck out into the Atlantic from the east coast of Canada. Pretty windswept area. I think it gets pretty wild there in the winter. But Bryan has an interesting story. He's actually got a lot of experience in brewing, but there's not much point in me telling you the whole story now. So let's go over and let's talk to Bryan and let's talk beer.
So my wife and I lived on the west coast of Canada and spent a lot of time traveling to all the great breweries around there. And I had the opportunity to work in some really great breweries in British Columbia and Alberta. And we always loved going into tap rooms because they're in the coolest parts of the cities. You'd always find great restaurants, lots of action, lots of people. So we wanted to recreate that in our hometown. So that's kind of what inspired us to get going. And that's kind of where the name was derived from as well. We like the idea of people having a couple of beers and having some candid conversations, kind of cutting through the noise and just tell it like it is amongst friends. The initial size of our brewery is 10 hectoliters. We can push that a little bit. We have a 12 hectoliter kettle. So we can also high grav batches up to about 15 or 16 hex. And our cellar capacity is about, I think it's 90,000 liters. And this is our first brewery we've owned, and probably my last brewery if everything works out well, or even if it doesn't, I suppose. I've worked at 4 other breweries previously, and this is the end of the line one way or another.
Okay, end of the line is a bit dramatic, so I guess it kind of hints that this was maybe not the easiest project in the world to get off the ground, was it?
There was a fair amount of red tape trying to open a brewery. As far as like municipal governments go, we don't really have a brewery in our town, so people are engineers and people who have to answer to lawyers someday are a little bit reluctant to put their name on anything. So I would say the bureaucrats are always a good challenge to overcome. The target of many people's ire. As far as good stories during the journey, we had this brewery in planning for a number of years, and we had 2 kids during the process, so that'll kind of give you a idea of how long it took to birth this project itself. It was a long haul. My second child, my daughter, was born in March, and the brewery finally started making beer in May. So it was a long haul, but it was fun.
Right. I mean, obviously, you're probably going to guess, but I don't have a encyclopedic knowledge of the beer scene in Nova Scotia. I know nothing about it, to be honest with you. So is it well established? I mean, you're saying there that there's a bit of paperwork involved. So are there a lot of breweries? And what are the beer styles? Is it all hazies like everywhere else these days? Is there a mix of the different styles that people are going for?
Craft brewing scene in Nova Scotia is fairly established. For a long time, there were two main players: Propeller out of Halifax, who I worked for as their head brewer back in 2015, and then Garrison. Both of those breweries have been around for 25 years. And then, in the 2010s, some other breweries opened up that are, quite established now. And then around 2015, that's when I was with Propeller. There were more upstart breweries in all the little towns around Nova Scotia. So there's certainly been a boom regionally with brewery openings. And that's been the biggest change, I would say. As far as tastes and styles go, I think a lot of people transitioning to craft beer or experimenting with craft beer access it with something familiar like a blonde ale or a Kolsch. It's one of our best sellers. That's kind of how you get people to switch from a domestic light lager. And then for people who are the converted, IPA is still kind of king on the East Coast, as it is, I think, across most of the craft scene in Canada and North America. So we have two IPAs, a West Coast IPA and a Northeast IPA, or a more tropical, hazy, cloudy IPA that are two of our best sellers. So it's kind of two ends of the spectrum: light, crisp, clean ales on one end, and then big, hoppy, more aggressive beers on the other end of the spectrum.
And those beers then they're obviously some part market driven, but are they distributed through other through bars, through retail? Where do you get your beers out to, and how'd you do that?
Our main point of distribution is our own retail shop. We retail our beers at the front, right where the beer is made, and then we have a sizable tap room, probably about 120 seats, that where we sell our beer on tap. We do have a few accounts for draft, but it's hasn't been a large focus yet. We've been more focused on making the in-person experience as good as we can, and hosting events to kind of keep the scene going here. But we are available through our provincial liquor distributor, the NSLC. We have one product in there, and we're looking at adding just to some private stores in the new year.
So then that's interesting. Actually, that having a big tap room gives you, I mean, it gives you instant feedback on what's selling. So does that, you mentioned already, IPAs and lagers. Does that feedback and having that tap room, does it kind of influence what you're brewing, um, in ways that maybe if you were just shipping out to retail wouldn't?
Our focus is on sessionable beers, so we like things that are a little easier drinking, something that people are going to come in and enjoy, two or three or more of. I like a big double IPA, but it's not going to drive your sales, to be honest. If people only have one, or if they have two or three and they're, not fit to be around. So we like to kind of make beer that's social, casual, easy drinking, something you can settle into for a few of. So we really like, German style lagers and ales, and I really like North American style pale ales that aren't too high in alcohol, but really showcase all the great hop flavors that are available to us now as brewers. As far as styles we haven't really gotten into, it's always fun to do some barreling projects and stuff. I've had the opportunity to do that in the past at other breweries. It's just as a startup, you're always stretching your dollars, so we're not quite there yet where we've established a barrel program, but we'll do little things like that. Also need to kind of play to your market. I don't think that would necessarily be the most popular thing around here, so we're kind of focused on making fresh, easy drinking beer and keeping it moving.
What do you think the future holds for the brewery?
As far as what's next, as a new brewery, we're really just trying to get everything dialed in, get used to the idiosyncrasies of your facility and your equipment, and pretty happy with how the beer's been coming out. It's been better every time we make it, so it's getting a little more efficient, kind of improved by degrees, and no big changes. Kind of stay the course, and just keep focused on quality and um, having fun with getting beers to people that they enjoy.
I'm going to guess that you're available on all the usual Facebooks and Instagrams and stuff. So, do you want to give us the details if people want to contact you?
So if people want to learn more about Candid Brewing Company, we are on the World Wide Web at candidbrewing.ca, and you can find us under the same name on Instagram and Facebook.
I'll put all those details in the show notes anyway. But Bryan, thanks a million for taking the time. Is there anything I should have asked you though that I forgot to do?
Just want to thank you for inviting us to chat on your podcast, and to thank anyone who's listening for drinking local beer, because you have lots of options out there, and hopefully your local craft brewery is giving you a good one. Thanks very much.
Thanks again to Bryan for taking the time to talk to me there. As I said, I've put the contact details in the show notes. So if you're ever heading towards Nova Scotia, be sure to check them out and pay them a visit. Sounds like it'll be worth your time. As usual, we're on Spotify, we're on Apple Podcasts, we're on basically all your good podcast players and on YouTube. So please, if you haven't subscribed yet, I'd appreciate if you would. And also if you can leave any kind of reviews or comments, and that just keep getting the word out. We'll be back with more profiles and more chats from other people over the next few weeks. So hope to talk to you then.